Gamer Edie here with Nick Nicola and Holy Gully, and with us is
Matt Guillen back.
And you are with
Infinitap Games, the creators of Neverending Nightmares.
Neverending Nightmares. We just played the demo for that. That is one messed up game.
The game is actually inspired by my personal struggles with mental illness. So I suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder and depression. And through the game, I'm trying to recreate the feelings, the experience that I've had in the actual gameplay, in the player. So it's definitely supposed to be messed up. It's supposed to be terrifying because that's something that I've had to deal with mental illness. Everything you see in the world seems threatening and bad and wrong, and everything feels this oppressive pressure and anxiety. And so I'm using every tool in the book to create that in the actual players.
It is very effective because it's this art style. I mean, as soon as I saw it, and I heard other people talking about it when I was playing the demo. It's Edward Gorey. It's so. It's black and white line drawings. So Edward Gorey. Where did the inspiration for the art style come from? Because that's so much a part of this game.
Well, so as a child, I had this pop-up book, The Dwindling Party by Edward Gorey, and it had the most gorgeous and amazing pop-ups, but like on every page, one person in the family gets terribly murdered. And so like, as a child, I didn't understand. I wanted to like the book because it was so beautiful and so cool, but then, like such terrible things were happening, and I just couldn't really reconcile that, and I sort of liked the almost incongruity of the simple sort of children-friendly book in stark contrast with the content. And so I think it works really well, because we have some really grotesque violence, but it's not like, oh, I'm going to go puke, this is some torture porn thing, just because we have that degree of stylization and simplification. And also I think that the sharp black and white art style really makes it bleak and helps, create this oppressive, depressing atmosphere in the game.
And yet beautiful, startlingly beautiful. It's black and white, but there's a lot of red, obviously. In the demo that they were playing, there was writing in blood on the walls. Interestingly enough, it's a biblical quote.
Yeah.
Oh God, why have you forsaken me? Which is the last words of Jesus. Where did that come from? Is there a story, and does it relate? I mean, I'm not a Bible thumper, but I'm wondering what's the relationship between Jesus, that quote, and that demo?
Well, I think it's sort of an interesting thing, and I try not to talk about too much of what everything means to me. I like to sort of leave it open-ended, but I think it's a very interesting quote. If you understand Scripture and in terms of the feeling that the person or fictitious character of Jesus, whatever your religious beliefs are, is saying he's the Son of God, but yet he feels completely abandoned by himself. And I just thought, that sort of desolation was such a perfect metaphor for depression and for the what I've felt and what a lot of people feel. Even if they're depressed and they believe in God, then yes, it feels like God has abandoned you. And of course, maybe he has, maybe hasn't. Depends on your religious beliefs. I'm not here to preach, but I just really, that idea stuck with me, that God himself abandoned his own son, like that just sort of level of desolation. And I thought it was very evocative, for the game.
What is there a premise to the game? Because the demo just kind of sets you into a recurring, re-waking nightmare that just never ending. It's a never-ending nightmare, obviously. But is there a more firm dialogue or what's going on, a more firm story?
So kind of. We're taking a really unique approach to the storytelling. So there will be more story clues, and in the current backer build, there's some dialogue. It's all temp, and half of it is me, and I sound really terrible. So but there's stories, and there's a character. There's an interaction between the man and the woman who shows up in various forms in the demo. But the interesting thing is, because it's a nightmare, because you're waking up into different situations, their relationships change, and things that you think about the story are proved to be wrong and false. So it's almost like a puzzle. As you play through the game, you have to figure out where all the pieces fit, what's reality and what's just a manifestation of the character's psychological state.
It's called Neverending Nightmares. Is there an end?
There will be an end, but there will be more than one ending. So one of the interesting things we're doing is we're going to support multiple endings, but it's not like there's a good ending and there's a bad ending and, the silly ending. It's just going to be completely different endings. The character wakes up into different realities. And the reason for that is I think it really contributes to the nightmarish feeling of the game, right? Because then if you go and replay the game, you're not just like, oh, this is what happens, this is who the character is, oh, it all makes sense. You play through it again, and oh, these characters are different, and different things are going on, and I wake up into a different ending. So, I'm trying to sort of establish the idea that there is no reality. There isn't, just one reality. It's all just sort of a nightmare.
I like how you convey that through the character. Every time he wakes up, the room is a little bit different, and it's just subtle things like dolls on the wall or pictures, and it constantly makes you feel uneasy because in a horror game, difference usually is bad. And so every time you wake up, every time you start walking down the hallway, it's never familiar and it never feels safe because there's always those little differences that make you realize, okay, I don't know what's ahead of me. And for as much as this looks familiar, and maybe it should be, it's not.
Yeah, we're definitely playing with that, and we're also playing with the idea of descent. So, as the game progresses, or even as you go through a nightmare, things get crazier and more out of hand. And then as you go from nightmare to nightmare, things will get crazier and just more nightmarish and more terrifying. And so we're really sort of creating like a common base, but then, tweaking it and sort of, I like to think of it, as like I'm turning up the knob and by the end it'll be 11 and things will just be completely crazy.
I have to add what Nick was saying about the creepiness is that I was in the demo, I was walking down a corridor, which, you've gone down several times, but it's different every time. And one time it looked like there was a doll sitting there, a creepy doll, and the next time it looked like the doll had no face. Or it was a different doll. So everything keeps changing. You keep looking around, and I don't know about you. It's kind of queasy. It's kind of creepy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely want to create that feeling of unease and anxiety because I think, especially with OCD, you always feel uneasy. You always feel anxious. OCD is an anxiety disorder. And so trying to create that sort of anxious feeling like, I want to get through this, but I can't, I can't run because then a monster will get me. And then, so definitely we're really trying to sort of push the player out of their comfort zone. And then, their comfort zone gets a little bigger, and then we push it further and further as the game progresses.
We were talking earlier about how you conveyed darkness in the game, which I think is really impressive, and I don't see it in any other game before. Explain what the darkness is in Neverending Nightmares.
So with Neverending Nightmares, I wanted to create the darkness as a character in the game. I wanted to make it feel alive, give it personality, and make it something other than just the absence of light. So through the art style, the pen sketch lines, and also a lot of complicated shader programs, we're able to create this almost like living, breathing darkness that's animated and has all sorts of different effects. And I think it really contributes to the unease of the game because even if your character is just standing right there, there's things still moving on the screen. The darkness is constantly creeping towards you and it's flickering in and out with the candlelight. And I think it really helps to communicate that unease, to have this darkness character, breathing down your neck at all the time. You can't escape from it.
Yeah, it's very effective.
Tell me about the giant baby.
So I don't want to talk about too much what that means in the context of the story because it's sort of like an interesting story cue. But in terms of creating the giant baby, one of the things Well, I read a very interesting book called The Philosophy of Horror, which basically dissects horror as a genre and tries to answer the question, why do people like being scared? And are you even technically really scared in terms of the emotion during horror? Because it's not like you're going to run out of this room like, I'm so scared, my life is threatened. So it's very interesting and it's very academic. So, I mean, there wasn't like a ton of concrete things, but one of the things is they talk about, you know, for enemies, for monsters in horror movies, it's for it to be horror, at least the assertion of this author, is they have to be unclean or monstrous, or there has to be something, you know, wrong or bad or evil with them. And so I really took that to heart when designing the enemies, when coming up with the ideas. And so I thought, you know, like, you know, giant muscular baby, you know, it seems evil and wrong and bad, and also it's also sort of very iconic. I can't think of any other giant muscular baby. And then, of course, you know, like everything in the game, you know, we have sort of one litmus test, like, does this go in the game? Does it contribute to the theme and the story? And so, fortunately for us, the giant baby monster works with the theme and the story we're trying to tell.
Was there any reason you made the dad look like the dad from the Family Circus? Do you have anything against Billy or Dolly or anything?
I do not. I don't actually do the art. I just sort of rubber stamp it, and you know.
You always creep me out, by the way. So good job.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely uneasy, and you know, all the characters. It doesn't look like, you know, something's wrong with each and every one of them. They don't seem exactly right, and I think it works really well for, you know, furthering unease in the game.
When you say we, how many people are working on this?
So we have about 4 people working full-time, and we contract another artist part-time, and sound design and music.
And you are in the Kickstarter room. Does that mean you are Kickstarted, or you are in the process of being Kickstarted?
We were Kickstarted. It was actually sort of an amazing photo finish. We were funded on the very last day, and I think we did something like 30% of our pledges were in the last 3 days. So it was one of those things where you're about to give up, and then, you know, our backers really came through for us. It was an absolutely amazing experience.
And when did it hit its goal? When was the Kickstarter open?
It was September 29th, so we've been working for about 6 months after with our wonderful Kickstarter funds to keep us going.
And so right now, what platforms is it set for? I saw it was on a mobile device, and I also see it on PC.
So we're doing Steam, but PC, Mac, Linux, or Windows, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we're also doing Ouya. And so with Ouya, we're doing the Ouya Everywhere initiative. So basically, Ouya is bringing their storefront to other devices, like we're running one off the Mad Catz Mojo, which is the first device they've announced. So it's really cool because, you know, we can target a larger audience, and the Ouya store is really great for distributing, you know, games that run on mobile hardware but have, you know, controller-based input.
And when is it due for release?
We're planning to release before Halloween this year, and we're looking at probably late September.
And about how many hours of gameplay?
We're looking at probably 2 to 4. We want to keep it short and sweet and not put in a lot of filler, just because that's very difficult to, you know, maintain tension over really long periods of time.
Well, I mean, it's 2 to 4, but that's for one ending. You'd say there's multiple endings. How many endings are you thinking about?
Right now, we're thinking about having 4 endings.
So that's 4 times over. Is there anything that you do within the game that actually affects the ending, or is it a randomly generated based on not on the gameplay?
No, it'll be branches based on the different actions you do in the nightmares.
Are any of them a happy ending?
No, there's no happy endings in this story.
I was going to ask that. I'm like, do I want to ask that? Because I know what the answer is going to be. So it's just varying degrees of bad.
Yeah, different bad endings.
Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Once again, that's Neverending Nightmares. It is a horror series that has very, very deep roots. Absolutely beautiful to look at, beautiful to play. Going to be available, when was it again? End of the year?
End of September, hopefully.
In the Halloween time on Steam, and Ouya. Thank you.
Thank you.